I have another anniversary album review for you. It is by Stone Temple Pilots. The name of the album is Purple, released on June 7, 1994 through Atlantic Records. The album is celebrating 30 years. It's the follow-up to their debut album Core from 1992. It was a major commercial success, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200, and it sold 252,000 copies in its first week. It remained at the top of the chart for 3 weeks, and it sold over 6 million copies. There were a bunch of singles, Vasoline, Interstate Love Song. Those were on the top of the mainstream rock charts track. And then we had Big Empty, that was like a top 10 on both charts. Then there were a few lesser known album cuts, but they were promotional singles, such as Pretty Penny and Unglued. I'll be talking about all of that. But before that, let's get into some history. The story begins in the spring of 1994. The band returns to the studio to work on their next album, and they completed it in less than a month. They released their first single, Big Empty. The song made its debut on Stone Temple Pilots' MTV Unplugged acoustic performance in 1993. The song would later appear on the soundtrack to the 1994 Brandon Lee film, The Crow. And I also just realized that I missed that anniversary back in March. I'll have to get it done eventually because that was such an awesome soundtrack. But back to Purple. It also reached the top of the charts and the band's first album to do so. I'll talk more about Big Empty later on. They expanded their sound on this album. There was still the grunge sound from their debut Core, but there were other genres such as the psychedelic rock of Loungefly and Silver Gun Superman, the country vibes of an Interstate Love Song, and the blues rock of Big Empty. Let's talk about the artwork. The album features a painting of a child riding on a Kileen, which is some dragon horse type creature as seen in this image, accompanied by a quintet of fairies above the creature and the child, taking place on a cloudy background. So the album title is written in the Chinese character Z on the album cover and nowhere else on the packaging. Early pressings featured the Chinese character and the band name printed on the CD jewel case cover itself. I bought this cassette back when it was released. I don't have the cassette anymore. I later picked up the CD as part of the box set, and the back of the CD shows the cake, which says 12 Gracious Melodies. The cassette version shows a child holding the Chinese character in his hand rather than positioned in a corner. The album received generally positive reviews. AllMusic critic Stephen Thomas Erlewine, he said it was a quantum leap over their debut, showcasing a band hitting their stride. Let's talk about some of the singles first. The first song that I remember was Vaseline, even though I had already heard Big Empty from the Crow soundtrack. I was surprised. I thought it sounded pretty heavy. The guitar riff was simple, but it worked. The intro was created by Robert DeLeo. He ran his bass through a wah-wah pedal to get the sound. I went back and gave it another listen after not hearing it for a while, and I was wearing headphones. And I noticed a lot going on in the background, especially with the drums and the guitars. And yes, it was on Beavis and Butthead, so let's go to that.
This song kind of rocks. Besides, later on, they show a dog with nads.
Written by vocalist Scott Weiland. During their performance of Vaseline on VH1 Storytellers, Weiland says that the song's about feeling like an insect under a magnifying glass. During an interview with Greg Prato from songfacts.com, Scott Weiland confirmed that the key line in the song came from a misheard lyric. His parents put on the Eagles song, Life in the Vaseline, and Weiland thought they were singing Flies in the Vaseline. In his autobiography, Not Dead and Not for Sale, he also said that it is about being stuck in the same situation over and over again. It's about me becoming a junkie. It's about lying to my first wife, Janina, and lying to the band about my heroin addiction. The song also has a music video. It was directed by Kevin Kerslake. The video was in heavy rotation on MTV when the single was released in 1994. Let's talk about Interstate Love Song. It was released in September 1994 and the third single. It was one of the band's biggest hits. It reached number 1 on the US Billboard Album Rock Tracks chart, and it replaced the band's previous single, Vaseline. The song stayed at number 1 for 15 weeks. That was a record at the time. It gave the band 17 consecutive weeks at number 1. Interstate Love Song also has been hailed as one of the best songs of the 90s. According to Robert DeLeo, it was originally a bossa nova song when he began to write it. They recorded the song during sessions for Purple at the Southern Track Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. Scott Weiland was able to complete his vocals for the song in just one. There's also a music video directed by Kevin Kerslake. Again, it had that washed out color effect throughout most of the video and features a long-nosed protagonist escaping from an unseen pursuer. The protagonist's nose grows longer throughout the video, similar to Pinocchio. This symbolizes the theme of lying in song lyrics. At the beginning of the video, an early 1900s silent film clip of the protagonist is shown. I've always liked the song. I think out of all the songs in the album, I probably listened to this one the most over the years. It's always popped up on different streaming playlists, and I used to enjoy playing it on the guitar. It's a very good song. Then it was Big Empty. The song won an MTV Music Award for the Best Song Featured in a Movie in 1995. As I mentioned before, it was on the Crow soundtrack. The song can be compared to Creep from their album Core. It begins with a slow and soft acoustic verse followed by a loud and distorted chorus. This was one of my favorite songs back then. I liked the bass guitar sound towards the end of the song. There were a few lesser known singles. Pretty Penny, it's a 1995 promo single. It differs greatly in style from the rest of the songs in the album. It serves as a calm acoustic interlude between the distorted and delirious Still Remains and the aggressive and sinister Silver Gun Superman. It's a pretty cool song. It's almost as if the Beatles' Norwegian Wood was recorded in the grunge years. I think that's what I got from it. According to lead vocalist Scott Weiland, the song was his last desperate attempt to prove himself that he was not a drug addict. His drug addiction later became a huge problem for the band and led to 2 hiatuses and ultimately his death, but that's a good topic for another video. The song was then performed again by the 3 remaining members of the band with the new lead vocalist Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. That was in 2013 without Scott Weiland. That was a short-lived part of the band. But let's talk about Unglued, a 1994 promo single. It was performed live on a Late Show with David Letterman in December of 1994.
Gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Stone Temple Pilots.
Unglued was a minor hit for the band. It can still be heard on radio stations in the US, and it remains a staple in their live shows. It's the last song Scott Weiland performed before he died. Short song, it's only 2.5 minutes. I think it's the most Nirvana sounding song on the album. It definitely has that sound going back to their Bleach album. Meat Plow is the opening track. I always thought it had a very sludgy sound. It's a good song because it's slow and heavy. It also had the backing vocals in addition to those of Scott Weiland. Fly was a very trippy and psychedelic song, especially with a drum beat and the strange guitar riffs. Sounds like they're using a backwards guitar riff. Supposedly the intro to the song was used for MTV News in the 90s, although I don't really remember it. I looked for a clip, I couldn't find it. But you can't forget that acoustic interlude in the middle of the song. That's probably my favorite part. Then there still remains one of the deep cuts. It's a song that's very typical of the grunge sound. You can hear it in the vocals, you can hear it in the guitar chords used and the specific tone. It's a good song. It doesn't get a lot of attention. Silver Gun Superman, one of the heavier tracks. I thought it was a very sludgy type of sound. This one is also where the bass guitar playing shines. I really like how it sounds. Ants is a pretty cool song. Intro is very psychedelic, and then after that becomes a straightforward grunge type of song. I also got some Nirvana vibes from this one as well. And Candy Bars is the last song on the album. It's a very laid-back song and has some acoustic guitars and some orchestration. It's pretty cool. Some of it reminded me of the Beatles from their psychedelic period. A hidden track named Second Album. It's a lounge song performed by Richard Peterson, a musician who was a big fan of Johnny Mathis. Second album, 12 gracious melodies, worth listening. Hope you enjoy them, like if it's sung to me. And that is all. Let me know your thoughts on this album. Is it your favorite album by the band, or Where would you rank it? Do you want me to make a full version of me singing the second album song? Thanks for watching. Please check out this video right here. It's for my review of Core for its 30th anniversary. I did this on a different channel. Please like the video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I'll see you in the next one.